Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today both to give you a second look at the popular Godox V1 flash units, along with their X Pro. In this case, it's an S because I'm using it on Sony, but their X Pro transmitter. And today, however, I'm going to give you a little bit more of a tutorial look on how you can create some really unique lighting conditions, some beautiful portrait work using, in this case, a couple of the V1S flash units and the X Pro S. All of these are built around Godox's X wireless system, and that is a 2.4 gigahertz. It allows you to control these flash units without any kind of additional flash triggers. All the wireless is built right into the flashes themselves. This gives you a ton of versatility, and I want to demonstrate a little bit of that here in a portrait session. Today's episode is brought to you by NordVPN. And of course, I believe that you and I both know that we live in a day in which our data is very vulnerable, and VPN services are the best way to both protect your precious data and to anonymize your browsing, particularly when you're using public Wi-Fi. Of course, you can also use VPN services to unlock Netflix and some of your favorite entertainment sites and get access to content that may not be available in your region. NordVPN is considered to be one of the very best of the VPN services for a number of reasons. First of all, it has very fast servers with over 5,200 servers in more than 60 countries. Nord has a wide variety of apps. I'm running it on my personal computer. I've got it on my phone. I can run it off of my iPad and devices like that. For me, one of the things I like best about it is that its apps are very intuitive, very easy to use. You can try out NordVPN for yourself. They have a 30-day money-back guarantee, and so that there is no risk for you. Go to the website nordvpn.org/Dustin. That's nordvpn.org/Dustin, and there you can enter the coupon code Dustin. Using the code brings the monthly fee down to only $3.49 per month, plus that 1 month free, making this a really inexpensive way to both protect your data and to anonymize your browsing online. Check it out again at nordvpn.org/Dustin. So taking a quick look at what we're going to do for this setup, and so I'm going to show you two different portrait scenarios. One of these are outdoor portraits, and then a second is just in shooting more traditional headshots using a simple backdrop. Now for these sessions, one of my favorite modifiers that I often use because it's easy to pack along, it's very packable, and that is the Light Genius Super Scoop. I've reviewed these previously, and I'll throw a linkage to that review if you'd like to take a look at that. And so they're a nice modifier to use that work well even out in an outdoor setting. So let's jump into that outdoor setting and let's take a look at the setup. Okay, so we're going to be testing a couple of the flash units here. These are the Godox V1S units, and so we're working with a couple of those. We're also going to be shooting some with the Zeiss Otis 100mm f1.4, along with the Tamron 35mm f1.4. We've got a Sigma 45mm f2.8, and so we're going to be shooting with a variety of glass here. And so we have got Jaslyn here to model for us today. And we're in an area that there was a recent fire that came through and kind of burned it out. And so we're going to use that to our benefit, hopefully, here today. I'll show you how I set this up. I used the X Pro unit. And so the way I like to use the particular X Pro unit is that I will do it one of two ways. Either, obviously, I'm going to set up both flashes in two different groups, and so that I can control them independently. And so one of the flashes I would use as my primary fill. And so typically I'm going to set this up to where it's going to fill the face of the subject, and then secondary light I'm going to use often either for some additional fill from a different angle, or I'm going to use more as a hair light. And so I get primarily fill from one side, but then also some hair light fill. And so either I will control these, I've set, as I said, set them up in individual groups. And so with the unit, I have the option of just quickly going to each one of those groups, and there's a total of 5 different buttons here on the side that allow you to immediately access, obviously at least 5 different groups set up as A, B, C, D, and E. In this case, I'm only using 2, A and B, but I have an option there of I'll either set them up in TTL, and that way then I can kind of tweak almost like the way that you would use exposure compensation, but you can tweak the light compensation, and so you get the exact look that you want. The other way that I'll use it is just to utilize it in a manual mode. And a lot of times I'll do this because it's get very, very consistent results. And I'm accustomed to working in that way, working on the fly. And then it allows me to tweak and just kind of, dial in what I want from the flash units. Now, the other thing that I did in this setting is that right here on the actual flash unit, or the X Pro S, I will select, there's a button right here that you can select to either go in or out of high speed sync. That way it doesn't matter what your shutter speed is. And so that gave me flexibility. In this case, I was shooting with a number of very wide aperture lenses, f1.4 and even f1.2 lenses. That way I can shoot them wide open. I can control the light. You get a little bit less light output, but often you don't need as much light because with that wider maximum aperture, you're letting more ambient light in. My goal when I am strobing is that most of the time, I want the result to look as natural as possible. And so anyway, I was able to make easy tweaks on the fly with this to control these independently, which allowed me to set the lights wherever I wanted. For these shots, we have been using one light as more of a hair accent light or as a primary fill, depending upon what angle we were shooting from. And I can vary that up by the X Pro S trigger. And we're using the kind of burned out area here to create layers, even shooting through a lot of the dead branches to add nuance to the shot. Let's take a look at some of the photos that I was able to achieve using this combination. So as you can see, some really beautiful results there that, are environmental, they're natural looking, but they're also really, really beautifully lit. Now, in a second scenario, this is kind of a more straightforward setup for just doing headshots. I was tasked with shooting very basic headshots for an organization, and the headshots needed to be on a black background and as consistent as possible. And so in this case, rather than doing so much of a hair light, I more set that up to just kind of do more of a clamshell kind of light. Both of them, if this being the subject here, 2 lights coming in like this to try to get equal fill to fill in the faces nicely. And again, same kind of scenario, very easy to use. I would be going in and out because people were showing up throughout the day, and I would just, with a few quick flips of switches, I would be ready to shoot. Now, of course, the flexibility that you have is that you could make a decision to really, really take down the light output of one particular light and to treat it almost like a single light to give you more kind of dramatic split lighting. And so in this case, look at the difference between shooting with both lights full on illuminating the face, and then the difference between shooting with more of a split light with one light only providing a very small amount of fill on one side, but primarily getting all of this out of one light. Now, the final thing that I do want to highlight that I think is really fantastic about these lights is the fact that they do have the 10-stage modeling light built into them. And so what was very advantageous about that is that I was shooting throughout the course of the day, and as a result, the ambient light in the room was variable. And so as it got towards the end of the day, I didn't want to turn on the overhead lights because that would impact my lighting situation. But what I did need was a little bit of a fill light to help to make sure that I got accurate focus. And so by turning on the actual modeling light from these and turning that output up, I was able to get, easy focus results even in what was essentially a dark room, and also able to get really good looking results. And so as you can see, really positive results. And what I wanted to highlight in conclusion of these is the fact that when you're talking about price, the flexibility that this kind of scenario gives you, we're talking about $259 each for these flash units. The X Pro controller is $69. That's a total of $587 in the US market using prices as of today. What that tells me is that you have got the ability to have a 2-light setup with a remote transmitter. To give you a comparison, that's $587. A single Canon 600EX flash unit, for example, is $579. A single Nikon SB5000 flash unit is $596. So one of the huge advantages that I see here is the ability, if you're on a more limited budget, to have multiple flash units and thus all the flexibility of that lighting, but also be able to do that with a remote transmitter for the price of one first-party flash unit. And to me, that's a pretty awesome value. If you're interested in any of these things, take a look in the description down below, and I will throw a linkage there to where you can purchase these from a number of retailers. And beyond that, there's also going to be a linkage to an image gallery. You can go and look at these photos again, the different things that I have kind of demonstrated as a part of this video. And of course, beyond that, there's also the typical linkage to follow me on social media, including now on Instagram. You can sign up for my newsletter or become a patron. And if you haven't already, please click that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.